The DNA envelope hit the dining table like a verdict. My husband did not slide it toward me. He threw it close enough that it tapped against my wedding ring. His mother sat beside him, with her purse still on her lap, smiling like she had come to watch a confession. "Open it," he said. "Tell my mother why my son doesn't have my blood." I looked at that envelope, then at the child's drawing still hanging on the refrigerator behind him. 3 stick figures, 1 yellow sun, and a crooked little heart above the word family. And I smiled, not because the test would save me, because the test was the mistake he had just made. 10 minutes earlier, my lawyer had texted me one sentence: "I'm outside with the signed fertility consent." That document carried the secret I had protected for years. The appointments, the doctor's quiet voice, the shame he cried into my shoulder, the promise I made not to tell his mother why he could never give her a biological grandchild. And now, in the same home where I had protected his name, he was using our child to call me a cheater. Before we go further, tell me in the comments what place you're watching from, or what time it is there, because somewhere, someone is hearing this at the exact moment they need courage. And if stories like this matter to you, subscribe softly and stay with me. When the doorbell rang, his mother's smile disappeared first, because the lawyer was not bringing my defense. He was bringing my husband's own signature. That signature was not hiding in a courtroom file. It was inside a cream folder my lawyer placed gently beside the DNA envelope, like one truth had come to sit next to another. My husband stared at it. Before he looked at me, that was the first thing that hurt. Not fear, recognition. His mother whispered, "What is that?" I kept my hands folded in my lap because if I touched that folder too quickly, they would see how hard I was trembling. My face stayed calm, but under the table, my wedding ring pressed into my palm until it left a mark. The lawyer did not raise his voice. He only opened the folder to the first page and turned it toward my husband. There it was. His name, his signature, the date, and just below it, the first clue I had not expected him to show so soon: his mother's phone number listed as the secondary contact on the fertility clinic paperwork. For years, she had acted like the child was a miracle she never questioned. Now her mouth opened, but no sound came out. My husband reached for the folder, but the lawyer covered it with one hand. "Careful," he said. "This is already copied." That was when I understood something worse than the accusation. He had not brought his mother there to learn the truth. He had brought her there hoping I would be too ashamed to say it first. He had trusted my silence because I had given it to him for years. Not once, not twice. Every birthday party, every Sunday dinner, every time his mother praised him for finally giving this family a son, I let the lie sit between the cake plates and the coffee cups. I let him be the father everyone clapped for. I let him carry our child on his shoulders at the park while strangers said, "He has your smile," and he would laugh too loudly, like laughter could make blood appear where it never had. That was the life people saw from the outside. A framed family photo in the hallway, his hand on my waist at church, his mother kissing our child's forehead and calling him proof that prayers worked. But now the cream folder on the table made every one of those memories feel different. The lawyer did not turn another page yet. He waited. Maybe he knew I needed one breath before the next truth arrived. My husband leaned back and tried to smile. "This is private," he said. "You're embarrassing yourself." His mother found her voice again. "Some women will say anything when they're cornered." There it was. The same pressure dressed in softer words. I looked at the DNA envelope, then at the fertility consent beside it. One paper was meant to shame me. The other proved he had built that shame with his own hands. For years, I thought I was protecting his pain. Now I understood he had been studying my silence. And when the lawyer finally turned to the second page, the first thing he pointed to was not my husband's signature. It was the date of the clinic appointment. The date I had believed his mother knew nothing about. The date pulled me out of the dining room and dropped me back into a morning I had tried not to remember. It was raining that day. My husband had stood in our bedroom doorway with his coat half-zipped, staring at the floor like he was waiting for punishment. "Don't tell Mom," he had said, "not until I can breathe." So I did not. I sat beside him in that clinic. I held his hand while the doctor spoke softly. I watched his jaw tighten when the word donor entered the room. And when he cried in the parking lot afterward, I promised him no one would ever hear that story from me. Back then, I thought his mother only sensed something was wrong. Now the date on the second page made every old detail rearrange itself. The way she called that afternoon and asked if the appointment went badly. The way my husband grabbed the phone before I could answer. The way she stopped calling our child a miracle for almost a month, then suddenly started saying it louder than anyone. My husband saw my eyes move across the page. "Don't do this," he said, lower now, not angry, afraid. His mother straightened in her chair. "I was worried about my son. That is not a crime." No one had accused her yet. That was the first red flag that finally became proof. The lawyer tapped the appointment date once, then slid a printed clinic reminder beside it. My name was there. My husband's name was there. And below both of ours was the email address where the reminder had been sent first. It was not mine. The email address was familiar, but not because I had ever used it. It was the one his mother used for family invitations, holiday photos, and church announcements. The one she always claimed she barely checked. My husband exhaled, like he had been holding his breath too long. "That could have been automatic," he said. "Clinics send things to the wrong people all the time." The lawyer did not argue. He only placed 3 more pages beside the reminder. That was when the room stopped feeling like a fight and started feeling like a pattern. First, the appointment reminder sent to her email. Second, the intake form with her phone, number listed as secondary contact. Third, a saved message from my own phone, one I had forgotten because at the time it sounded harmless. My husband had texted me that same week, "Don't answer Mom if she asks about the appointment. I'll handle it." Back then, I thought he was protecting his pride. Now, with those pages lined up beside the DNA envelope, I saw something else. He was not protecting a secret from her. He was managing what each of us knew. His mother's voice sharpened. "This is disgusting. You are dragging private medical things into a family matter." I almost laughed, but it came out like a breath. A family matter. That was what they called it when my pain was useful to them. The lawyer opened the last page in the small bundle. It was not from years ago. It was recent. A printed receipt for the DNA test kit, ordered 3 weeks before my husband ever acted suspicious. 3 weeks before he looked me in the eye and pretended doubt had just broken his heart. That was when I understood the DNA test was never the weapon. It was the cover. The lawyer let the word cover sit in the room longer than anyone wanted. Then he looked at the DNA envelope and said, "A test can answer biology. It cannot erase consent." My husband's jaw tightened. His mother leaned forward. "Blood is blood." The lawyer turned 1 page back to the fertility consent, then tapped the bottom line where my husband's signature sat dark and steady. "And a signature is a signature," he said. No one raised their voice after that. That was what made it worse. The room had gone quiet enough for me to hear our child laughing from the hallway, unaware that 3 adults were sitting at a table arguing over whether he belonged. My stomach folded in on itself. Until that moment, I had thought my husband was trying to humiliate me. But the lawyer's words made the truth colder. He was not only trying to call me a cheater. He was trying to turn our child into evidence against me. The lawyer spoke carefully, like each sentence had to land without breaking something innocent nearby. "The signed consent shows prior knowledge. The clinic records show the process was approved. The recent DNA order shows this confrontation was planned. My husband laughed once, but it had no strength in it. You're making paperwork sound like parenting. I looked at him then. For years, I had watched him kiss scraped knees, pack school lunches, and fall asleep with bedtime books open on his chest. I had never once thought love needed blood to be real. But he had, or worse, he had pretended he did the moment it helped him. The lawyer reached for the next document. This one matters most, he said. Across the top, in bold print, were the words my husband clearly hoped no one would read aloud. Acknowledgement of parentage. My husband stood before the lawyer could read the first line. Wait. The room changed because he did not sound angry anymore. He sounded gentle, almost broken. He looked at me, not the lawyer. I should not have done it like this, he said. I was scared. I let Mom get in my head. I am sorry. For 1 second, the old reflex inside me moved. The reflex that had made me lower my voice in clinic hallways. The reflex that made me hide pamphlets in kitchen drawers. The reflex that made me smile through his mother's speeches while he stood there accepting praise he had once begged me to protect. Then he looked toward the hallway. Think about him, he whispered. You do not want him hearing strangers discuss how he came into this world. There it was. Not remorse. A leash. His mother pressed a hand to her chest. Please, enough. A decent mother would stop before this hurts the child. A decent mother. I looked at the acknowledgement of parentage on the table. It should have been a document about love, about a man choosing fatherhood with open eyes. But my husband had turned it into something I was supposed to hide like evidence of a crime. The lawyer kept his hand on the page. Do you want me to pause? He asked me. The question nearly broke me because no one else at that table had asked what I wanted. My husband softened his eyes in the way I used to trust. Tell him to leave, he said. We can handle this as a family. Family. The word landed beside the DNA envelope, beside his signature, beside every page he wanted buried. My voice came out small, but it did not shake. Read it. My husband stopped breathing, and that was when the lawyer turned the page to the sentence my husband had been begging me to protect for years. The sentence was shorter than I expected. The lawyer read it slowly, without drama. I understand that this child may not share my biological DNA, and I still accept full parental responsibility as the child's father. For a second, even the air seemed to stop moving. My husband looked down, so fast I almost missed it. His mother did not. Her eyes cut toward him, not with surprise, but with panic. That was the sentence he had wanted buried. Not because it proved he loved our child, because it proved he had known. The DNA envelope sat inches away from the page, suddenly useless in the cruel way he had planned to use it. He had walked into that dining room pretending to discover a betrayal, while his own signed words proved he had already accepted the truth years ago. My husband swallowed hard. That document was for the clinic, he said. It was not meant for this. The lawyer closed the folder halfway, but not enough to hide the signature. It was meant for exactly this kind of lie, he said. Then he removed a thinner envelope from his briefcase. This one was not old. The paper was clean, newly printed, and clipped at the top with my name on one side and my husband's on the other. What is that? My husband asked. The lawyer placed it beside the DNA test receipt. A notice of representation, he said, and a request that no records, messages, receipts, or communications related to the clinic, the DNA test, or this accusation be deleted or destroyed. My husband's face changed. Not guilt, calculation. His hand went toward his phone on the table. The lawyer saw it before I did. I would not do that, he said softly. That was the first official strike. Not revenge, not shouting, just a line drawn on paper that my husband could not charm, shame, or grab away. Then I saw the second page of the notice. It was not addressed only to him. Then I saw why my husband had reached for his phone. The second page of the notice had his mother's name on it, not as a guest, not as a witness, as someone whose records, messages, and communications had to be preserved too. For the first time since the lawyer walked in, she looked smaller. "This is absurd," she said. "I am his mother. I was only supporting my son." The lawyer did not move fast. He slid the notice toward her, like he was giving her a chance to understand what silence had become. "You were listed as a secondary contact," he said. "You received clinic reminders. And according to the documents already shown, you discussed the appointment before Mrs. was told you knew." My husband said, "Mom, stop talking." That line told me more than his apology had, because a man does not tell an innocent witness to stop talking. His mother's face hardened. "He was ashamed," she snapped. "Do you know what that does to a man? Do you know what it is like for a mother to watch her son feel less than whole?" There it was. Not confusion, not surprise. Knowledge wrapped in pity for him and contempt for me. I remembered the week after the clinic. She came over with soup, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "Marriage means covering each other's weaknesses." I thought she was talking about ordinary pain. I did not know she was telling me my job. Cover him. Smile for him. Let him be the father everyone praised. And now, years later, she had sat at my table waiting for me to be branded unfaithful, so her son could remain untouched. The lawyer opened another page. "This notice includes you," he told her, "because family pressure can become evidence too." She looked at my husband then, and for half a second, they were not mother and son. They were two people checking whether the same secret had survived. Then the lawyer placed one printed message on top of the notice. It was from her, sent the night before the DNA kit was ordered. The message began with 6 words that made my husband close his eyes. "Make her say it in front of me." The lawyer read the rest without raising his voice. "If she keeps hiding behind the child, demand the test while I am there. She will protect your shame before she protects herself." No one moved. My mother-in-law reached for the arm of her chair. "That is being twisted." I looked at her for the first time without trying to understand her pain. "What part?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. My husband stepped in quickly. "You do not know what that message meant." "I know what the DNA kit receipt meant," I said. "I know what the clinic records meant. And I know you did not walk in here looking for truth." His face hardened. For the first time, he stopped pretending to be sorry. "You knew the test would not match," I said. His mother snapped, "Because blood tells the truth." The lawyer slid the DNA envelope closer to the fertility consent. "No," he said. "Blood tells biology. Records tell context." That sentence landed harder than shouting, because that was the trick. My husband had not needed the DNA test to discover anything. He needed it stripped of context. He needed one result, one mismatch, one cruel sentence he could wave in front of his mother and call proof. But the result did not point to an affair. It pointed back to the clinic, to the consent, to the donor process he approved, to every quiet appointment I had attended while protecting the same man now accusing me. My husband looked at the envelope like it had betrayed him, but it had not. It had only refused to lie without the records beside it. The lawyer picked up the fertility consent again. "This is why the DNA test alone was dangerous," he said, "and this is why it was never enough." Then he turned the page and pointed below my husband's signature, not to his name this time, to the initials beside the donor line. The initials beside the donor line were small. That almost made them worse. They were not dramatic. They were not emotional. They were just 2 letters in my husband's handwriting, sitting beside a sentence that said donor material had been discussed, understood, and approved. My husband stared at them, like he could make ink disappear by hating it enough. I signed a lot that day, he said. You know how clinics are. They push papers at you. The lawyer nodded once, like he had expected that answer. Then he placed another page beside it, a consent checklist. Every box had been marked. Every line had his initials. Donor option explained. Biological relationship discussed. Legal parentage reviewed. Future disclosure recommended. Each phrase landed like a door closing. My mother-in-law whispered. He was overwhelmed. The lawyer looked at her. The clinic note says he asked 3 questions. He turned the next page. The note was typed by the counselor who had sat across from us years ago. I remembered her soft voice. I remembered the tissue box on the table. I remembered my husband squeezing my hand so hard my fingers went numb. The note said he asked whether the child would legally be his. He asked whether anyone could force him to tell family. And he asked whether the donor's name would ever appear on the birth records. I felt something cold move through me, not because he had asked, because he had understood. My husband pushed back from the table. This is cruel. I looked at him. No, I said. Cruel was asking for a DNA test in front of your mother when you knew exactly what it would show. The lawyer placed the parentage acknowledgement beside the clinic note. Same file, same date range, same signature. The stack was no longer one document. It was a wall, and every page said the same thing. He knew before he accused me. Then the lawyer reached into the back pocket of the folder and removed one final attachment. It was not typed. It was not from the clinic. It was written in my husband's own hand. The attachment was folded once, like someone had wanted it hidden even inside the file. My lawyer flattened it carefully. At the top, the clinic had written one plain line, personal statement from intended father. My husband's handwriting filled the space below. I consent to donor conception because I understand I cannot biologically father a child. My wife has not been unfaithful. This is a medical decision we are making together. I request privacy from my mother until I am ready to tell her. My throat tightened so quickly I had to swallow twice. There it was. Not just consent, not just knowledge, protection for me, written by the same man who had just tried to destroy me. My husband looked at the page like it was a stranger. I was emotional, he said. People write things in clinics they do not mean. The lawyer did not answer him. He turned the attachment slightly and pointed to the margin. There was a second note in smaller handwriting, dated 2 weeks later. Mom knows more than I wanted. She keeps asking whether the baby will really be mine. Please do not release any donor details to family without my written permission. His mother made a sound so small it barely reached the table. I remembered her holding my hands months later, smiling at my stomach, telling me she had prayed for our bloodline to survive. Now I knew what that smile had been. Performance. She had not been fooled by a sudden DNA accusation. She had been waiting to see whether I would protect the old lie or protect myself. You knew, I said to her. Her eyes filled, but not with regret. With what he was going through, she whispered, you should have carried this quietly. I had carried it quietly, through pregnancy, through birth, through every family photo where they stood closest to the child and left me at the edge of the frame. The lawyer placed the handwritten attachment beside the printed message from her. The 2 pages looked different, but they said the same thing. This was never one man's accusation. It was a family trap. And the next page showed where they planned to spring it. The next page was not emotional. That made it feel worse. It was a simple printed schedule with 3 lines. Family dinner, mother present, DNA envelope on table. Under that, in my husband's handwriting, was one word circled twice. Pressure. My lawyer placed the page in the center of everything. The message from his mother, the DNA kit receipt, the consent checklist, the clinic note, the handwritten statement, and the parentage acknowledgement. For the first time, the dining room looked less like my home and more like a room built out of evidence. The lawyer pointed to each page without rushing. The clinic records show approved donor conception. The consent shows prior knowledge. The parentage acknowledgement shows accepted responsibility. The message shows pressure. The receipt shows planning. And this page shows where that pressure was meant to happen. My husband's face had gone pale. "That is not what it means," he said. The lawyer looked at the DNA envelope. "Then say clearly what you meant," he said. "Did you believe today's test would prove an affair, or did you know it would show the child was donor conceived?" My husband did not answer. His mother did. "She trapped him into shame," she said. I turned toward her slowly. "No," I said. "I protected him from shame." I could see our child's drawing on the refrigerator behind him, still smiling under its crooked sun. The room went quiet again, but this time the silence did not belong to them. It belonged to the proof. The lawyer opened the parentage acknowledgement one final time and placed it beside the DNA envelope. "This is the legal contradiction," he said. He accepted the child with full knowledge, then used the child's biology to accuse her of betrayal. That sentence ended the lie, not the pain, not the consequences, but the lie. Then the lawyer reached for the clean envelope he had not opened yet. "This," he said, "is what happens after a false accusation becomes documented." The clean envelope held 3 copies. Not a lawsuit, not a final judgment, not the kind of paper that ends a life in one dramatic sentence. It was quieter than that. A written notice documenting the accusation, the proof already shown, and the demand that my husband stop repeating any claim that I had been unfaithful. My lawyer placed 1 copy in front of him and 1 in front of his mother. "The purpose is simple," he said. "If this accusation is repeated to relatives, employers, church members, school staff, or anyone else, it will be answered with the records you have seen today." My husband stared at the page. "You are threatening me?" "No," the lawyer said. "I am documenting what you already did." That was the consequence he had not planned for. He had planned my humiliation. He had planned his mother's witness seat. He had planned the DNA envelope like a weapon. But he had not planned for the moment when his own words, his own initials, his own signed parentage papers, and his own mother's message would be tied to the accusation in writing. His mother stood too quickly, knocking her purse from her lap. "People will not understand," she said. I looked at her. "That was what you were counting on." For the first time, she had no answer. The lawyer slid the final copy toward me. "This also protects the child's records," he said. "No school, doctor, or family contact is to be used to spread or support the accusation." That line hurt more than I expected, because the child still had no idea that the adults at the table had turned his existence into evidence, defense, shame, and strategy. My husband looked toward the hallway. "Please," he said, "do not make me look like a monster." I looked at the DNA envelope, then at the drawing on the refrigerator. And I realized the next choice was no longer about protecting him. It was about what truth my child would someday deserve. The room did not become peaceful all at once. After the lawyer left, the DNA envelope was still on the table. The consent forms were still in their folder. My husband was still standing there, waiting for me to soften the truth so he could survive it. But something in me had changed. For years, I had treated his shame like something breakable in my hands. That night, I picked up my wedding ring from where it had pressed a mark into my palm and set it beside the folder. Not thrown, not dramatic, just no longer carrying what was never mine alone. The next morning, I took our child's drawing off the refrigerator and put it in a frame. 3 stick figures, 1 crooked sun, the word family still written in uneven letters. I did not erase any of it. I just stopped letting that word belong to people who used it as a weapon. My husband's messages went to my lawyer. His mother's calls went unanswered. The child's records stayed protected. The story they tried to tell about me could no longer travel without the truth walking behind it. And when my child asked why the house felt so quiet, I said, because quiet can be safe too. I did not tell him everything that day. Children deserve truth, but they also deserve it gently at the right age, from someone who loves them more than the need to win. If you were in my place, would you keep protecting a secret after it was used to shame you, or let the truth protect your child too? If stories like this remind you that quiet justice matters, subscribe softly and stay with me. That night, I sat at the same dining table with a cup of tea instead of a DNA envelope. The chair across from me was empty, and for the first time in years, empty did not feel like loss. It felt like room to breathe.